All right, let's go ahead and get started. Some people might hop in. We're gonna go into the CheckIn app. Again, some of this we've already covered, but I'm Chris, and this is Ryan.
Hello.
Ryan is the lead developer on the CheckIn app and made it all happen. So he knows way more about CheckIn app than anybody does.
Hopefully I still remember most of it. We'll see.
RaceDay check-in, we're going to cover how to set it up, suggested presets, locking the device. We'll talk about why you want to do that or potentially want to do that. Waiver tools. We may have time to cover linked registrations. If not, we'll mention it. Dynamic Bib Assignment, the stats, and then all the changes that you can make. Has anybody not used the check-in app at an event? I know you guys have already done the hand raising, so a couple. In order to use it, turn it on. I know we keep saying it, but again, like you'd be surprised at how many questions like, why isn't my app in, or why isn't my race in the app? So turn it on. You can turn it on today. I'll say this over and over again. Prepare in advance. There's no reason to wait until Friday to set this up for Friday. It's actually, in my opinion, like a horrible idea to do that, especially if you haven't used it a lot. My normal process is like Monday of event week, setting it up. So setting it up week of to run through the entire weekend, just like we talked about for expo mode and things like that. Nobody's trying to break into your app. Not only do they have to have the app, they have to know your password, you have to have it turned on, like all these things. So like it's not, nobody's trying to get to your info and it's password protected. So it's just rare that anyone would have any issues with this. I'd never heard of it. Have you ever heard of it?
Nope.
No. So you can turn on all of this now for your Thanksgiving Day race. And then once you do, you can update your settings. We're going to go through a number of those settings here in a bit, and then you can check people in.
I usually do set mine up maybe 2 weeks just to have it, just because it's, I also have to try to show all PCs or iPads or update with software, etc. Sometimes it loses its configuration. I gotta reset that.
So are you, by configuration, are you going in and updating the settings and then uploading it to the cloud?
Yep, and then you have to go back and just kind of save and bring it back.
So there's...
I use the older app because there's some issues I don't do. So I use the older app.
The black app. Well, one, that one's no longer supported. So number two, there were some benefits to that in regards to offline use because it would pull everyone down, which sounds great. Any event over 1,000? 1,500?
Yeah, we had an issue where like you had a really large event, the app would actually just kind of like have
White
a white screen,
screen.
And it just stopped working.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yes. And actually the other thing, and that first iteration of the app was like super, super cool because it was new and the groundwork for why this is the way it is. But at the same time, you had to go to every single device and upload those settings. So if you're still using that app, if you have scaling with the same settings, so if you want to mandate Bib or not use group or show the camera, mandating those settings in the old app, you had to update that on every single device. You didn't have the option to upload it to the cloud and then just open the device, go to settings, and click download settings from cloud, which is, I don't know, like 4 clicks total or something like that to scale another device.
I mean, another issue that you might be having is that when you download the app and you download your race, it basically sucks in your race configuration at the time that you did that. And if things change over time, it's possible some things get weird, especially if it's been lingering there for a few weeks.
Another best practice is delete the old races.
Delete database.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the best practice.
Yep. I'm pretty sure we have a slide about that. Right. So what's being said, and this goes for both, and we're not going to talk about the black check-in app. We're going to talk about the two-tone blue one, just so everyone knows. But if ever you open your app and you haven't used it in a year, and there's people in there, and nobody's supposed to have a bib number, and there's people with bib numbers in there, you're like, what's going on? You've actually probably still got information from last year's event, and all you have to do, and again, I'm fairly certain there's a slide about this, is you can go back to races right here, and you'll end up on this race search, and at the very bottom, there's a settings button. You hit that settings button and hit a big red button that says delete database, and then go back in, search again for your race, and there's other issues, like not issues, but that's a good solution for a number of things. Like if you assign everyone bibs and then open up the app and then you're like, crap, I messed up on all the bibs, and you clear them all out and you change them all and you open your app, the previous bibs, there's a good chance they're still going to be in there. So anytime you do like major changes like that, delete your database out of the app. It's not clearing out RunSignup. It's just clearing out the cache on the app itself. So I'm pretty sure we have a slide on that. So again, these are some suggested presets. I know there's a lot of information on here. And we talked about one of these on the last, but I turn age off a lot. Just again, that volunteer scenario where they're handing out the bib number that is 45 and they're reading age is 45. It's like, they just get those confused a good bit. And I'm pretty sure that all of these slides are going to be, if not available now, will be available. So just so you guys know.
That was the one I needed a picture of yesterday.
Well, even ask me if they're not available, I will text you, especially even this slide.
Okay.
So since we've gone through these presets on one or two others, then I'll go ahead and push forward. And this is obviously tiny, but what it is it's just showing the differences in between two different presets for individuals and relays. I think everybody was in here for the last talk. So if anyone has specific questions about individual versus relay presets, we can go over that.
So can you override a preset? Giving it the same name?
Yes, you can. So you can't override a configuration like that. The things are uploaded to the cloud. So preset or configuration 1, configuration 2, like the cloud uploads.
Right. If I call it the same thing, it's going to give me the same name 10 times.
So this right here, you can save over these with the same name. You can quite literally go in and just edit. What I would do is just edit if you screwed up on your individual presets you just go in and edit it, change it, and then you would need to save up to the cloud again.
They fixed that at one point where I did that. It kept uploading. I had 3 different things called the same exact name.
Exactly.
Right, yeah, so one of the things that I think the current iteration of the app doesn't allow for, and this might be what you're experiencing, is if you edit the preset locally and then you go in to save it to the cloud, it's possible that it actually won't let you edit it. You have to add it again, and I think we have a, right, and then you're like, you pick it and you're like, I don't know which one it is, right? And so we actually have an intern that's been working on the app this summer, and we hope to get a release of that app out, I would say probably within a week or two, that will actually allow you to handle that, I think, a little bit better. But the one concern that we always have in the back of our heads is you're a race director and you're setting up your time or whatever. What's to stop your volunteers from editing or deleting that preset, not knowing what they're doing, and then just messing everything up for you? So that's always that's always an issue that we have, but we do have a solution for that in locking the application.
Right, and so you can do this on both. If you have, so a number of people that want to scale are not just using their volunteer devices; they're also going out and maybe purchasing iPod Touches with both forward and rear facing cameras, and they're Wi-Fi, so you're not paying for a 3G subscription. Granted, you have to have a Wi-Fi on site, but you can obviously connect. I know my Verizon hotspots are 15 devices. Granted, it's probably going to be pretty slow if you go at that rate. We usually max out around 4 or 5 per hotspot just to be careful. But even on your volunteer device, usually I would say get there early, get your volunteers there, and then have them open the app, download the app, open the app, go into settings, pull that cloud setting in, and then go back in, and your lock application is right here. And just say, hey, can I hold your phone for a second? Lock application, put in your code, and hit lock application. And now when they go in to hit the hamburger in the top, the only option they get in terms of settings is unlock application. application.
Yeah, so that makes it so you can't go to another race, you can't go to the settings, you can't really mess up all the other configurations for that app.
Right.
But you still have to do that device by device.
That locking the application, you do have to do device by device.
Correct.
And that's because in many scenarios, you'll like, especially again, I keep talking about scale. One of the best things about this is ability to scale is having two sets of presets or two configurations. And so the last thing I would want to do is lock my staff or whoever's at my help desk out, because they should be a super user enough to know how to change the settings if they needed to do it on the fly on their local device. And so I don't want to lock them out of that. But your volunteers, like, for sure.
Does this lock only for your event, or is it for the app?
This locks.
It's kind of one and the same. So it prevents you from going out of the menu. That's really all it does. It just takes that 4 digits that you put in and makes it so if you want to navigate away in the app, you have to put in those digits again.
So the volunteer walks away with the app on their phone. It is locked.
That was my question. If they're
Yeah.
using their personal device
Yeah.
and they leave the venue,
They go to
they
another
able to
person's
shut
event.
that program down and be able to access their personal device after that?
Oh, it's just locking this app.
It's just in the app. So
Yeah.
so
they can take phone calls and stuff
they
like
can
that
hit-
with it locked.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
if they
They
went
choose
towards a
somebody else's-
different race, though, and volunteered a different race, then if that race director or timer didn't have your passcode, then they're locked out of the settings on that event. I mean, granted, that's not going to happen probably a lot, but if I had a volunteer at, say, our races, and then they wanted to go volunteer at his race, and we had them both doing check-in, if I locked it over here, they went to his race, how are they going to be able to get into
By
it
race.
to fix it?
So it's by
And-
race.
I think it is by race. I'm going to do it right now.
It's a really good question.
It is a good question. And
So I think if they were actually, and I could be wrong on this, but I think if they're smart enough to know how to force quit the app, I think that might actually work. One of the situations that we kind of wanted to get away from was like keeping them in the app, making it so it's like impossible for you to do anything. Because really when we developed this feature, it was meant to be paired with something like Apple has what's known as guided access, which physically locks you in the app. And that might be what was discussed earlier. And you get kind of in this weird situation in the middle where you want it locked, but you also don't want it locked. And it's kind of hard to navigate that.
so if you go in and lock the device and they close out of the entire application, then they can get back in a second time. So they can change events.
If they go back
You would
to the
need to
same-
relock it if they go back out and back
Right.
in.
And then you have the flip side of that, which is like, well, why can't they just do that and get around it? But, you know, it's like, no matter which way you
You're not
cut
gonna
it.
have time at our races.
Yeah, most of the time they're
Right.
not sitting there like trying to get into your data.
Right.
No.
And if they are, maybe you should find a different volunteer group.
Right. Seriously.
Have you ever had any experience with actually locking the device into the app? Because I've had a problem where, like, a volunteer, instead of clicking the back button in the app, they put the back one in the OS.
So I don't know, I forget about Android, but iOS has what's known as guided access, and that was what I was alluding to earlier, where you have to triple click the home button and then put in some passcode to actually get it away from the app. I don't know, I'm pretty sure Android would have an equivalent.
Something like it.
Right.
So the other thing, and again, I know a number of you guys are race directors and timers. As a timer, it might not be that important to you specifically. As a race director or race owner, this, again, like if you've ever been through any kind of litigation about athlete safety, you pick whatever happens. Personally, I have, and it was a long time ago, and it was not on RunSignup, and it came down to whether or not that athlete had actually signed the waiver. And all on the back end was a binary 1 or 0. It wasn't like we couldn't see the waiver or anything like that. Whereas if you're requiring the waiver, especially like, and you check in, it brings up a waiver signature sign. You actually can't go past this until you get there. You can read the waiver. Again, I checked it with Spider-Man. So, and granted, they can sign it however they want to, but this then, so this is how it was signed in the app. This, I don't know if you can see the purple at the top for how many of you have been into like your participant, like edit or manage your participant information. This is the bottom part of the participant information with a screenshot of that signature.
And the other thing I want to make a comment on is like if your volunteers are doing this, it's really important for them not to hit agree because that kind of like defeats the whole purpose. You have to give it back to the participant to say, you have to give them an opportunity to read it. You can't just say, yeah, I agree to this without like showing them the actual waiver. So they have the ability to read it if they want to. But if they want to decline the option, they can just say, I agree to it.
So I'm going to ask you a stupid question. What's the purpose then of the waiver when you start registering? And what's the legal difference?
No. I mean, but like.
I mean, because I don't do this because I'm like, you sign the waiver, you're good to go, and send rock and roll.
So what you might be talking about is if you do online registration and you require the waiver, this step is skipped. This only shows up if you did not have a waiver signed.
Okay.
So if you were an import,
right. Sorry,
or if you had settings set up to say, no, I don't, I want to give them the option to not sign it online. Right, if they signed it online, they skip this step completely.
So because I have a lot of teams, so I have a team captain that will register 60 people. Yes.
Yeah.
So in reality, my question is how legal is that waiver because that one person signed up 60 people.
So in that regard, like you can choose to allow, and usually this is not the normal setting, but you can allow to defer the waiver signature to a later time.
So that would trigger.
That would trigger this because the waiver hadn't been signed. Or if you import a participant.
At the point of check-in, it just says, was this already signed or not? It doesn't care how it got there, but it determines that based on the waiver set.
That helps because I'm like, I don't want everybody standing there signing.
No.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's a good reason to use the app then, so you're not like dealing with a paper waiver.
right. You don't have to remember, oh, these 10 people didn't sign the waiver. We got to remember to, get them to sign it. Right.
Yeah, we actually had a race recently that I called Chris on because we're sitting there and whoever had set up the race and given them the option to sign the waiver at a later date.
Yep.
And I'm on site.
1,100 person race. And they had checked that box. And we found it out on Friday before the race.
I'm on site for like pack and pickup, and I was setting up their expo mode, and I always go through it. When I went through it, I saw that box. I'm like, "Whoa, wait a minute!" And I looked, and there were a bunch of waivers not signed. And so, called him. He's like, "No problem, do this." And it worked flawlessly. Like if they had signed it, the screen didn't pop up. If they hadn't signed the waiver, that screen popped up.
988 people checked in for an 1,100 person event, and I would say like 25% of them signed the waiver on here. So dynamic bib assignment. There's two types of dynamic bib assignment that you can do. One is the manual type in dynamically, and one is the scanning of a bar QR code on the bib. And for those of you not familiar, I guess I probably should have put this on the homepage, but this is the app we're talking about. The settings, again, turn on the CheckIn app, search for the race app, log in, change the settings to your liking. You do need to, actually you can leave it as either require or optional. If you leave it as optional, you get the option to skip the bib number. So if you're dynamically assigning, you need to require the bib number if there's nothing in there. And so we'll go through that really quickly. Again, test, we go in, we change our settings, and when we hit check-in, you can see the bib number right now is in A. And so from here in A, it brings up this page. Again, this is the manual type in. Even if you forget to set the camera mode, from here, you can go in and actually use the camera to scan. But in this scenario, we're typing in use bib number 555, and you hit assign. So this would be a volunteer mode that I would have at one of my events. The reason why I say that is because once I hit assign, it checks that person in, and there's no other change options underneath right here. So I can't clear the bib, can't uncheck the person in, can't change anything. And so when I go back in, when I hit the back button there, Clark Kent is now bib number 555 and checked in. And again, the whole premise of all of this is everything syncing back and forth. And so you have in RunSignup, and I think it's like a 15-second cache or something like that.
Every 30 seconds, it tries to go up to RunSignup if you have an internet connection. It uses the APIs to kind of go and sync everything back up, but it does save it locally instantaneously.
Right. So the flip side of that is the scanning of the QR code. Same thing, all the same settings. At the very, very end, I think it's the second to last option on all the settings for the individual presets is auto show camera on Bib Assignment. And so you would turn that on. And what happens there is, again, Wonder Woman has no bib number. As soon as you hit check-in, it automatically brings up the camera. The first time you use it, it's going to say, will you allow this application to utilize the camera on your device? And if you hit no, then it's not going to work. And it's going to bring up it's going to bring up this screen, and you're going to have to manually type it in. If you hit yes, again, this is the one time. You only have to do it the first time. It's going to bring up the camera, and you do not have to get anything in a box. You do not have to do anything. It will, anywhere in this, will find either the QR or the barcode. And once it does, if your barcodes are set up correctly, you can see how this barcode right here, we had on Timers Talk, I don't know how many of you guys play in that, but somebody went in and said, I don't understand how barcodes work. Well, barcodes work with a star, number, star. That is all this is a type of font, right? So all this is doing is reading this barcode as this font, and the stars are the start and end points. So it reads that and populates right here. So you have a double check before you actually assign. So you can see this is bib, well, you can't see, but this is bib number 1101. So 1101, and then you have the opportunity to hit assign. And so now Wonder Woman has bib number 1101. So Clark Kent and Wonder Woman are checked in. Using the CheckIn app, a lot of questions I get are bandwidth. Like, how many devices do I need for my event? Like, whoa, we're going to need a lot more information. So how many people are in your event? How long is packet pickup? You know, all these things matter. And so the numbers I've run, and this is just my personal data, I'm sure some other folks can probably pull app reports and see what their numbers look like. But with the reports that have, where I pre-assign and have to thumb through and find the bib and give it to someone, one application in a 5-minute period can check in 7 or 8 people. With a dynamic type in the bib number, one application over a 5-minute period can check in somewhere around 13 to 15. With a QR code scan, they can check in somewhere between 28 to 30. So it's almost a doubling up as you go. So if you're looking at like larger events, using this, you can scale quickly and you can really delete out the lines with, and you can scale up and down as needed. So if you see things backed up, I know I used this example because it's a perfect example and you guys were part of it. And that is, we couldn't get into the, or it wasn't Friday night, it was Monday night thing 15 minutes later than we're supposed to. So everyone got there at the same time, a queue formed, and we were like, oh God, what do? We need to check everybody in. Well, 3 more people got in line, opened up their phones, got the presets, check more people in. So magically we went from like 2 or 3 people checking people in to 5 or 6, like that. It's not something you can do in a normal setting if you're using paper, you know, and you're not dynamically checking people in. So the irony of the issue with the web check-in thing, or the race that Stephanie was talking about, this is actually the data from that race. So thank you. So this is this is actually the race where we had to sign waivers at the same time. So it was an 1,100 person event. And 988 people checked in. So this is post-race. There's great reporting after the fact. And I've alluded to this about, Brian and I talked about this in regards to telling, you might just be the timer, talking with them about this information after the fact. This is where signing the waiver even, 30 people on one device in a 5-minute period. So like,
that's also streamlining your check-in process. It's check-in here,
oh,
grab the bib number, your t-shirt's down here.
No, they had t-shirts behind, I believe, didn't you? Yeah, this is all at one.
We had people grabbing t-shirts.
Yeah, this is not one person doing everything.
One person was doing the check-in at this study. He's talking about doing 30 on that one device. But
yeah, but they're getting their bib, they're getting their stuff like at the same time. So there wasn't like a whole nother place to go get your t-shirt. I mean, it was only 1,100 person race. It wasn't like, I think they're turkey trot at 20,000 where you actually do have to have separate stations. But again, like you look at this data and to you might be like, oh, that's cool. A race director that's saying, how many volunteers do I need? This is super important. Like honestly, when I see something level off like that, I say that that person's probably overloaded. Like seriously, that's how I look at it. When I see something kind of peak or plateau, I say, okay, this may be overloaded. Maybe we need one more. And so from 7 until 8, we should probably do one more device into the mix. So it's just a way, like looking at this information from previous events is actually super important as a timer race director. It can give you a lot more information out to you.
The only thing I want to note on this is if you go to the settings screen in the app, you have the ability to actually name it. The default is already check-in, but if you want to use this reporting and you have like 5 devices, you want to track, maybe it's a different location, maybe you want to track who it is that's checking it in, you can just edit that name, and when it goes in the reporting on RunSignup in the dashboard, you'll actually see that name. So I just want to add that.
And we had, and this is where Brian was talking about the stores wanted to compete against each other on dynamically checking people in at different stores around town. So dynamically checking people in, if you have a stock of whatever giveaway, so let's say you don't do shirts, let's say you do hat, like a one-size-fits-all scenario, like now it's super easy to scale to multiple places because you're dynamically checking people in, and you can have like whatever uptown store, whatever downtown store, whatever outskirt store, and as a timer or a race director, you can actually work with that store. I've had programs where I say, you're going to sponsor it and we're going to hold packet pickup. And they were like, well, what does this look like? I was like, how about you pay me per person that picks up their packet? Because I'm bringing somebody into your store. You're the salespeople. You're the bike shop. You're the running store. You should give me 50 cents a person. Because then it's on you to activate that person and sell that bike or sell the goo or sell the t-shirt or what have you. I'm not your salesperson. I'm just giving you the opportunity and the FaceTime to engage these people. So, I mean, I'm not saying that everybody's going to be into that, but it is another option of like generating revenue. And then you have data after the fact to actually see how many people came. In the interest of time, I'm going to burn through some of these because a lot of these are exactly the same. It's just some screenshots, and then I'd be more than happy to do some one-on-ones or small group stuff afterwards. So in terms of editing things, you have a lot of allowing edits down here. And so again, I'm going to kind of go through these quickly because it's very, very similar. So if you allow giveaway edits, you now have the ability, like I turned all of these on here, you can change the giveaway, and this is what it looks like. I will say, if you edit the giveaway, it does not take into account within the app onto your inventories. So just keep that in mind. That's why I wouldn't allow volunteers to do that, only staff. Corrals, same thing. We have 2 corrals for this event, so if they hit it, they have the option to toggle back and forth in between 1 and 2. Changing events, you have to allow event transfer. You can also keep the same bib if they transfer events. And so if you hit change event, this has a 5K, I believe, and a 5K relay, so they can toggle back and forth in between that. The editing personal info, again, if they click that, they can change first name, last name, sex, age. Allowing uncheck-ins. This is something that I would definitely only keep for a super user in that scenario, like in regards to a staffer. It's a big red button, and it secondarily asks you, are you sure? It can also, you can clear out the bib while doing that. There are scenarios like Ryan Griesmeyer was kind enough to demonstrate how you wake up early in the morning for a morning run on Tuesday morning and forgot his bib. And so I had to go into the CheckIn app, clear out his bib, and change the bib. He actually did that 3 times over the course of 12 hours. Optimizing check-in, this is some of the things that we've talked about several different times. Just getting things set up early, uploading it to the cloud, ensuring everything's set up, and ensuring the volunteers know how to use it. And then after the fact, checking reports. So yeah, so we are about 5, maybe 10 minutes late. And again, just to wrap this up, I'm gonna move outside. If you guys have, I know we're already over, so we need to move along, but I'll answer any other questions you guys might have right outside. So thank you.
Thanks.